about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes,
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hippo Toes.
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. This is the Radulich and Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Batwoman. Na 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 Batwoman. Na 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 feminism. Almost got that joke out without tripping over my words because I think I wanted to say femi-lesbianism, but that's not a real thing. So, and I figured I couldn't do one more na without annoying people. I probably have already annoyed them. Hey, speaking of annoyed, my co-host tonight is back again. It's Alexis Hejna from Honeysuckle Rose Creations. How do you do, madam?
It's just feminism. It's not femi-lesbianism. Being a lesbian is part of feminism now.
I know. I'm an old man and I tripped over my words.
Yeah, I know. You're the old man in the mountains and you don't like them painted.
Lake? My lake.
That's my...
Yes.
A little guilty admission here. That's actually my aunt, the one who introduced me to Looney Tunes and turned me into the cartoon addict that I am. That is her all-time favorite Looney Tunes short. So saying that joke always has a little special thing for me.
Oh, well, I'm happy to hear that. All right, so this was brought to you by the good people at Belanti Productions. Greg, move your head. DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Television, and Warner Brothers Television Distribution, and the CW. The premise of Batwoman, which had its first run this season and has already lost its star because she got hurt on the set, and so actually, I want to talk about this. She got hurt on set, and I think somebody else got gravely injured on this, and at the end of it, Ruby Rose, who plays Kate Kane / Batwoman, just kind of threw her hands up and said, nope, I don't want to do this. I got the feeling from other things that I've read that she got the role. It's a juicy lead role. It was possibly an opening to other opportunities out there, but after a season of this, she came to the conclusion that she bit off more than she could chew, and between the injuries and other things that happened, just 'twas not worth it anymore. Tain't worth it, Alexis. Tain't worth it. Ruby Rose. Thanks.
Tain't worth. Yeah, she gave her reasoning. The statement she gave was that she was not able to deal with the hours spent in filming and the physical exertion. She did. I don't know if it was a live tweet or it was live something of her spinal surgery after that horrible injury.
Yeah. And
again, it's not going to be confirmed, but if you were to tell me that she didn't want to play the role anymore, because Ruby Rose it has done most of her own stunts in the past. I mean, this girl's most famous role prior to this was taking on Keanu Reeves in a John Wick movie. Enough said.
She was also on a season of Orange is the New Black. She was hotty-totty, let me tell you.
Yeah, and also in the movie The Meg. Which,
that's right,
from what I read, she almost drowned on that set.
Yeah, I don't think Ruby Rose is going to do action movies anymore.
Well, I think that like I said, if you were to tell me that she doesn't want to do the show anymore because it's causing her too much pain because of the spinal surgery, I would have no trouble believing that. So I think it's both of our theories. Ruby Rose, great actress. You know, she has wowed me in everything she's been in. And when I heard she was cast as Batwoman, I said, yeah, perfect choice. You know, and she is not disappointed as Kate Kane. But you're right, she doesn't really do a lot of lead roles, and I don't think she was prepared for this. So maybe it's a little of column A, column B.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to add to this discussion was I had been reading about her on set and the articles having to deal with her not coming back, and a lot of what kept coming up was even before the decision to leave the show, she withdrew, She wouldn't come out of her trailer. She argued with the directors. She didn't want to be there. I don't think she knew what she was getting into with this. I think she thought it's a television nighttime soap opera with capes and cowls. I'm sure it'll be fine. Melissa Benoist doesn't seem to mind it. How bad could this possibly be? And she got that one brief role as Batwoman in the Elseworlds thing where, she just did the one shoot. So I think she was like, okay, this can't possibly be that bad. And then I think early into it, she realized I did not sign up to be a gymnast. I did not sign up to be a fighter. I want to be an actress. And she realized that this was not for her.
Help me out with this. Like I mentioned when we talked about Supergirl, I have not been able to get into Flash and the Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow, so I avoided the Elseworlds, Crisis on Earth X, and Crisis on Infinite Earths, as I didn't want to get horribly confused too late. But in the Elseworlds, was there a massive breakout at Arkham?
Yes.
Okay, because throughout the season they keep mentioning a breakout, and I'm like, did I miss something? And I just kind of started to assume that anything I didn't understand was explained in Elseworlds.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it was another show. Don't question it.
Yep. Elseworlds dealt with, I want to say it's Dr. Psycho, who gets a hold of the Book of Destiny, I think it's called. Whoever was it becomes part of the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline. And he rewrites history to where the Flash and Arrow are swapped, which to shoehorn Batwoman in as a backwards pilot for Batwoman, to kind of shoehorn her into the Arrowverse. They wrote the story to where Barry, Supergirl, and Green Arrow, Oliver, need to go to Gotham in order to find who has this book and make them change things back to the way they were. And that's where they make the world's finest joke between Batwoman and Supergirl and all of that. Elseworlds was not great. I was excited for it when it happened, and it ended up being a setup for Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was infinitely better. I think in part still not great. I had some issues with it. But overall, it was like, we want to do Crisis on Infinite Earths, but we got to introduce a whole bunch of shit. So let's spend this year's crossover introducing a whole bunch of shit. And so they did. But yes, to answer your question simply again, yes, there was a breakout at Arkham.
All right, because, like I said, so many times they talk about characters escaping from Arkham, and I'm like, okay, I know that I'm like half paying attention to certain parts of this, but
So, season 1 of Batwoman, which begins and ends with Ruby Rose playing the character and will be recasted with a new character taking on the Batwoman mantle.
Really stupid mistake.
I don't know. I said I was going to save this for the end, but we can kind of talk about it now and then jump into the show. I think they'll just say the new one is Cassandra Cain, and if they're smart, they'll resolve. I know that there's shows that there's episodes. Because of COVID, the season was cut short, so there was like 2 or 3 more episodes left. I think they'll finish up this storyline with Beth Kane, Alice, who we'll talk about that in a second. They'll wrap all of that up. If they're smart, they'll just write Alice off the show, and then they'll time jump, and we'll go elsewhere in the world. We'll get out of Gotham, because I honestly think the show needs a fucking soft reboot anyway, and we'll talk about that shortly. Just have it be Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain takes on the mantle of Batwoman, and she's an international crime-fighting vigilante. Have her maybe hook up with Julia Pennyworth. Keep some of the characters. I think they need to write Lucius's son, I think it is.
Luke, yeah.
Luke off. Write him off the show. Write Alice off the show. Keep Julia, the character, Julia Pennyworth. And we talked about this on the comic book show. Just have Cassandra Cain just kind of out there in the world doing international vigilanteism, with Julia Pennyworth as her Q of sorts.
So your idea is stop doing Batwoman Elegy and start doing Batwoman The Many Arms of Death.
Correct. I also would say stop doing Batwoman and start doing Green Arrow with Batwoman.
That works too.
All right. 3 years after billionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne and his vigilante alter ego Batman disappeared, his cousin Kate Kane sets out to overcome her demons and become a symbol of hope by protecting the streets of Gotham City as Batwoman. So we're going to take this character by character here. And yes, this is at least in spirit, adaptation of the storyline Elegy that we talked about a few years ago on source material, where there's a character running around Gotham doing evil-doing things, and she goes by the name Alice, and she's got an Alice in Wonderland thing going on, and she controls the Wonderland gang. And as it turns out, it's Kate's twin sister, who she thought was dead, and she did not die. She's actually she survived this crazy car crash, and she lived to become Alice, and she takes her revenge on Batwoman, and that is basically the Elegy storyline. And it's more or less the entire 20-episode arc of this season, which is my first... Let's just talk about that for a second. They stretched a 4 or 5 issue graphic novel over 20 episodes. And outside of the occasional dip in here and dip in there into something else, they basically just stayed with... the whole show is this interplay between Kate and Beth, and it drove me up the wall.
And I say, while also adding in characters like Magpie, Nocturna, and Hush. Not gonna lie, I did geek out a little bit that they were able to work Thomas Elliott into the storyline. Hush is one of the single greatest Batman stories ever. I love it.
And he's utterly wasted in this.
Yeah, agreed. It was kind of funny trying to... Because Andre came in, I think I was watching episode 16, 17, I don't know. And I'm trying to explain to him who Hush is. And I was like, okay, you know what? Forget it. I've got the book upstairs. I'm just going to loan it to you. Just forget everything you've seen in this series, because it's not going to tie into the book whatsoever.
Yeah.
No, he is totally wasted, and I was a little disappointed on that. I was really hoping they were building up for more of a showdown with him. I mean, obviously now he's impersonating Bruce Wayne, and I'm sitting there going, well, wait a minute, how is this also going to work with the Riddler tie-in and everything from the book? And I assume they're not going in that direction.
Nope. They are off and running in a new direction.
Yeah, although I did really appreciate Gabriel Mann's performance. I love how he's... it's so funny. He's charming and he's witty, and he is one step from jumping off the ledge into Cuckoo Cloud City, or Cuckoo Cloud Land, or Cloud Cuckoo Land. I don't know, whatever that place is in the Lego movie.
So let's break it down. Let's talk about Ruby Rose as Kate Kane / Batwoman. In short order, the fact that she's a lesbian comes out. I think it's the episode Everything is So Queer Today. And, I mean, credit to the team at CW and Warner Brothers and Berlanti for trying. They really went out of their way to be like, look, gay superhero, everybody. And while I appreciate that, I think they did a halfway decent job of it. I'll ask you, do you think they leaned too hard on that to the point of alienating a more general audience?
Unfortunately, with Batwoman, you don't have a choice. Batwoman is a LGBTQ icon.
Okay.
She is one of the biggest names of gay superheroes.
Sure.
And I really feel that these guys knew that a lot of people are going to be looking to the show to be inspiring for the LGBTQ community. I really feel that they said, we don't have a choice. We got to go big or go home.
I get that. And I actually don't have a counter argument to that. I'm with you. I feel like a more deft hand could have said, here, big gay icon, while making the stuff around her a little more palatable for the general audience. Here you go, like Supergirl. I think Supergirl does a really good job. Even though the character isn't gay, this is a character that I think all women could buy into. You know, I just as an example, and though I would not use her necessarily as the barometer for this sort of thing, I think she's a good person to sort of point to. My daughter, I showed her both Supergirl Season 5, at least part of it, and Batwoman Season 1, and my daughter hated Batwoman. Just thought it was the most boring, dumb, dark thing ever. Thought Supergirl was fantastic.
That's interesting because your daughter is the most adorable little feminist icon lover that I have yet to meet.
Right.
I mean, you always tell me that she'll only watch stuff as long as it's got strong female characters.
Yes, but before, just so everyone knows, I showed her Star Trek 4 tonight, and I said, hey, can I show you more Star Trek movies? And she literally goes, I don't care what you show me as long as there's a strong female lead in it. Which is the Winston Zeddemore approach to things. I don't care what you tell me as long as there's a steady paycheck in it.
As long as there's a steady paycheck, I'll believe whatever you want me to believe.
Exactly. So, long story short there, I think the point that I'm getting at is, I mean, lest anyone confuse this, because I've seen our numbers for the She-Ra show. Apparently somebody in the LGBTQ community is listening to these.
As I've said many times before with these other reviews, if we say something wrong, I'm sorry. We're white. I'm from the Midwest, and we're both complete idiots.
I'm all for queer-forward television, and that celebrates, icons of that particular culture. What I'm saying is, I think Batwoman leaned too heavily to the point where I feel like that's all the show was, as opposed to Supergirl, who I think appeals more generally to all women and men, and I think it does a good job of being more inclusive, to where I think a gay woman could look at Supergirl and still see herself in that person. I don't think it has to be a one-to-one shared experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a gay woman, why can you not see yourself in Supergirl even though she's not gay? At least in part. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any problems with the push of of Kate Kane and all of the issues that come up with her sexual identity. Yes, it was very prominent, but again, I feel that they really did want to go with that so that they could really push her identity from the books. Furthermore, I feel that if they tried to scale back on any of it, they were terrified that they were probably going to get some protests and people saying, "Oh, what you don't want to push the agenda or whatever the line is."
To be clear, two things. One, people did complain that Ruby Rose wasn't gay enough, which drove me up the wall. Like, what do you? Now, I'm sorry. I just looked. I'm like, okay, first of all, I don't really get where the qualifier is on gay enough. Secondly, I've seen this woman in many other movies and such. I don't see your complaint. Yeah, I don't know what people wanted. Like, maybe she's too dainty. She's, there's the phrase, it's sort of a pejorative, lipstick lesbian, as opposed to, and again, it's a pejorative, I get that, but I don't know how else to describe this. Like, they wanted a more, like, butch lesbian to play the role, but that's not who that character is. This is the Wonder Woman. This is the problem I have with Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot got up for the part, and she put on some muscle, so it worked out. But initially, when Gal Gadot got casted, and she's as skinny as she was in the Fast and the Furious movies, I was like, well, this isn't going to work. I just, you have to physically... Sorry, go ahead.
I would say, but she did get better. And I guess there is something about the fact, Ruby Rose, she's in incredible shape, but she is a tiny little thing. She is very tiny. Again, if you've seen her fighting Keanu Reeves in the John Wick movies, you know how short she is.
Yeah.
But
and that's actually my only problem with this, is I don't believe her as a physical presence.
I guess I could see that, but honestly, they did such a great job of shooting her when she had the costume on. I really didn't complain. I thought it was so funny, people complaining about the red wig on that she dons, and I was just like, then you clearly do not get the point of Batwoman,
right?
Because Batwoman put the wig on on her cowl, on her helmet, essentially, to make absolutely sure that everyone knew it was her, that it wasn't Batman, it was Batwoman.
Okay. So to be clear, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just said I like that. I thought that was a good point to make.
Yeah, I mean, as far as costume design goes, I actually like the way that it looks. It's one of the better things about the show. To be clear, I am 100% okay with Batwoman, with Ruby Rose's portrayal of Batwoman. The storylines that focused on her and her struggling with being an out lesbian and her... So, here's an example. People are like, well, what's your fucking problem? Okay, here's my fucking problem. So, one of the storylines in this is dealing with another character, Megan Tandy as Sophie Moore, and they had a relationship when they were in cadet school. They're being gay and being in a relationship is what gets Kate Kane tossed out of cadet school.
We mentioned this before when we covered Batwoman Elegy and last night Many Arms of Death, that majority of Kate Kane's backstory took place before the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah. And so Sophie Moore is now married to a dude, and she's a badass. What they call them crows in the show. They're a private security force in Gotham. The premise of the show is essentially once Batman left, everything went to hell in Gotham. And so there being this is a world where there weren't 97 other vigilantes that could have taken up the mantle. And this world, once Batman left, there was a vacuum, and so to fill the vacuum, Kate's father created a private security force out of ex-military folk, and they keep the peace in Gotham along with GPD, Gotham Police Department. So she's part of the Crows. She's like one of the higher-ups in the Crows. And, of course, much like Jim Gordon and several others, you know, we have the father of Black Canary in Arrow, whose name escapes me at the moment, who also for the longest time didn't know. He was the only person in all of Star City who seemed to not know Oliver and the Green Arrow were the same guy. It's another situation where every single character in this show seems to know who Batwoman is, except her frickin' dad, who oscillates between trying to kill her and working with her, depending on which episode we're in.
Just remember, that guy playing her dad was originally supposed to play Wolverine in the X-Men movies.
Yikes. So...
No, seriously. Dougray Scott was cast as Wolverine. He bowed out so he could go make Mission Impossible 2. And that's when they cast Hugh Jackman.
Well, life works out in strange ways. So my point
it's like talking about parallel universes and infinite Earths. Imagine an Earth where that happened.
So my point is that I did not love the storyline between Kate Kane and Sophie Moore. Both of them don't come across real great. You know, it's like I was talking to somebody about this. Sophie Moore's husband on the show gets the short end of the stick fairly quickly and like never recovers. And I feel like in order to promote I don't know how I want to phrase this, to focus on LGBTQ issues in the show, they shit on a number of characters, and then the stories weren't all that great to begin with. So there's elements of it that are okay. You know, there were elements of Batwoman is a very mixed bag for me all season long. So a lot of the stuff having to do with Alice and the Wonderland Gang is pretty okay. There's some side quest stuff that happens that's pretty okay. But every time they tried to get into some of her relationship issues beyond the handful of one-night stands she goes on, I don't feel like those were handled very well. It's my personal opinion. I kind of got a feeling. Like, I know characters are supposed to have arcs and have some growth, but I don't think Kate Kane comes out looking great by the end of this series. I think, and it's not just for that reason. There's a number of reasons, not the least of which she ends up killing a guy. Kate Kane doesn't come off looking real great. Sophie Moore doesn't come off looking real great. And so it's hard to... I never stop rooting for Supergirl. And she certainly has her flaws and her ups and downs. I never stop rooting for Alex, another gay character. But they seem to handle her with a deft hand. Just as a point of comparison, if you're looking for gay positive characters with fun stories that don't go off into the ditch, Alex Danvers is your gal. The stuff they write for her and that actress actually ends up coming off very well. I have very few problems with that part of Supergirl. Do you see what I'm saying? I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like those storylines were handled with a deft hand with Batwoman.
I can understand that. They're really working hard with Sophie's character, the idea that there's a line that Alice gives her, it's like, I was in a cage, but you're in a cage that you created. They're really trying to hammer home that Sophie has tried to hide who she is and what she was doing, and she is trying to go into an image that, I don't know, the society expected of her, that her parents expected of her. She establishes pretty early on that both of her parents are horribly homophobic and would probably disown her if she came out to them. And there is a lot of truth into that. There's a lot of people that unfortunately have to go through that in their lives. A lot of people in the LGBTQ community who do not have the luxury of being able to come out and be who they are. And that's horrible. It's horribly tragic. And I think they were really trying to, connect to those through Sophie's storyline. But I'll give you credit. I will agree with you that it does seem to take up a little bit more screen time than I think we would have liked. They go into so much with her and what is going on with her life. You're absolutely right about her husband getting the, an absolutely horrible treatment in the script. We know nothing about him. We never see them together outside of their work. He works in the Crows too. We never see them together outside of that work. We know nothing about them or their marriage. We don't even know how they met or what they have in common. And when she basically, tells him that she's not in love with him anymore, we want to feel for her, but we don't know enough about this guy and what he's been to her that we can really sympathize. Right.
That's what I'm saying about a deft hand. If you want to write, because again, I'm all for writing about the. I just went back and I listened to High Fidelity. Sean and I talked about that show, and there's some discussion about being gay and coming out or staying in the closet and what it means to be a gay person in modern society. And we talked about that. We talked about it when we reviewed Glow as well. I'm fine with all of these things. Glow is actually an even better example. There's characters struggling with sexual identity, a lot of it in season 3. And we had a very lengthy discussion about that. So I'm all for a deft hand writing a meaty story about characters struggling with sexual identity. I just don't think Batwoman did a great job of it. And it's like, God, if there was a show that really should have knocked it out of the park, this one whiffed and hit a foul ball. Go ahead.
I did really like the episode where Kate and Sophie go to a restaurant. It turns out that the restaurant owner, who had previously said, after Batwoman saved one of his patrons, said, Batwoman, anytime you want to come here for a free meal, it's on the house. And when Kate and Sophie go there for a meal, of course, he's homophobic and he tries to find some excuse to kick her out of the restaurant. Mm-hmm. So then, through the real estate business that Kate has opened up to basically be her cover, she decides to buy the building across the street from the restaurant and turn it into a gay bar. And that is brilliant. I do love that.
Yeah, it was fine. I was okay with that. Like I said, it has its moments. Let's talk about... actually, before we move on, let's just finish up talking about Kate Kane as Ruby Rose. I said before, I don't really buy Ruby Rose as a physical presence. They do a halfway decent job of giving her enough kung fu fighting bits that the show mostly gets away with it, and she gets beat up enough and fails at things to where Okay, I get it. She's not Superman, and they're not trying to make her Superman. She definitely has a lot of hurdles she has to get over. And so what the show does do a pretty good job of is building up tension by making her vulnerable. I actually, there was one of my big complaints about Batman is that very rarely did anyone get the upper hand on Batman. He seemed like he could kick the shit out of anybody. There are times where I watch Batwoman and I would kind of raise an eyebrow and go, I don't know if you could really get away with that. And then there were other times I'm like, no, that seems fine. What did you think of how they handled Ruby Rose's action sequences and the sort of hand-to-hand fighting that makes up so much of this show?
You know what? I actually thought most of the fight scenes were very well coordinated. Again, they did a great job shooting her when she was in the Batwoman costume that I honestly kept forgetting when she was in the costume. I kept forgetting just how tiny she is. Mm-hmm. They did a really good job making her look imposing and showing her having the upper hand. Not to mention, I think the muscle makes it look like she's got a little more muscle on her. But, credit to the fight choreographers on the show. I think they did a pretty good job.
So, I wish I loved Ruby Rose's Kate Kane more than I do. I'm kind of, I would have lived with it if they had kept her. I'm hoping the next person they get to wear the mantle, I'll actually like more and be more into the show. I want this thing to succeed. I know the incel community is rooting for it to fail, but I don't. I want it to succeed. I want all of these shows to succeed. Many of them I very much enjoy. I think you're missing out, by the way, by not watching Legends. You really should. Because after season 1, which is the drizzling shits, it gets so much better.
I'm working on it. I hate to say it. It's one of those things that's on the list to watch, and then I have to go and watch something else for your show.
I'm trying to leave you guys alone, okay? I'm trying to back off. And, you saw the whole negotiation I had to go through with fucking Jason today.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? My phone wouldn't stop blowing up. I'm trying to watch TV here, guys. But I mean, I haven't even started watching the last season of Supernatural yet.
The star of this...
You keep me busy. You keep me busy, boss man.
That I do. The star of this show. The bright, shining star. The woman that makes it a worthwhile watch. The woman who is just dancing and chewing the scenery. She's absolutely marvelous. Rachel Skarsten as Beth Kane / Alice is just an absolute joy to watch. I hated the...
I would say you forget how shitty she was in Birds of Prey.
Yeah. She was in something else that my wife watched, because every time she walked in the room and saw me watching Batwoman, she would remind me that she was in this. Oh gosh, what was it? Something that she watched. Oh gosh, that's right, she was in Birds of Prey. Woof. Rain. That's it. She's Elizabeth of England in Rain. She was a guest role in season 2, and she was upgraded to main cast in seasons 3 and 4. Yeah, my wife was on this thing where she was actually watching new television there for a bit. So she watched Rain and Downton Abbey, and for a bit there, Outlander, and basically if it was Old Englishy, she watched it. Instead of watching the same episodes of The Big Bang Theory and Friends over and over and over again. In any case, every time she walked in the room, she would remind me that she was in Rain. I'll tell you, the woman, despite being shit in Birds of Prey, has had quite the television career. She was in a lot of TV movies, and she's gotten fairly decent television roles. She was in something called Flashpoint in 2011, The Listener, LA Complex. She had a recurring role in something called Lost Girl, the aforementioned Rain. She was in an episode of Wynonna Earp, for what that's worth. So, she gets around. She does the thing. No, she's the best part of this show, hands down. She's also done a handful of movies here, it looks like. Not a lot. Her television career seems to have been better than her film career. In any case, I just think her as Alice, I kind of preferred watching her scenes to watching Ruby Rose's scenes. She's hamming it up a lot in this, and I think she, and I actually like when she's on screen with Ruby Rose. I actually think they have good chemistry together as sisters. I just thought she was so much fun. My only issue with her portrayal is the inconsistency in the writing, to where she's half crazed and like hamming up the camera, just chewing scenery, and then there's other parts of the show where she just stops doing that, and she's earnest and sincere and normal, and nothing about her character has changed. There's no reason for her to be that way, yet she just like stops doing the gimmick for some odd reason and talks normal, and then she goes right back to being, this universe's version of female Joker, basically. So I have more issues with the writing on this show than with the actual character portrayals and whatnot. Anyway, loved her though. Best part of the show for me. What'd you think?
I'll go ahead and tell you this. I am convinced that had the convention season actually gone on as it was supposed to before the world decided to burn down due to a pandemic, Alice would have been one of the top cosplay options for girls this year. I have no doubt we would have been seeing a lot of girls at the conventions in blonde wigs, pastel jackets, tulle skirts, and oh, who am I kidding? I really loved Alice's wardrobe. I actually wish I had a handful of those skirts and jackets.
She was very like 90s baby girl, Courtney Love Hole kind of a thing.
I could see it, especially with the hair, but you know what? I actually really liked it. I thought it was a nice touch. I thought that they kept it interesting enough without being a little too over the top. In the comics, some of Alice's costume is a lot more like 19th century, I think. It's there's a lot more frill and lace to it, and it looks more like something that the character of Alice in the book would have actually worn. This one gives it more of an update, gives it more of a rough and tumble look, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
I also really love the flashbacks to showing Beth when she was younger and showing that she did wear a lot of light colors. We have the scene of her and Kate when they're 13, when they're leaving their bat mitzvah. Side note, credit to the writers for not dumbing down the fact that, yes, Kate Kane is not only lesbian, but also Jewish. So I like that they did keep that in and made that not a very strong focus, but they did have it up there when they needed to. Really appreciated that. But there's a great scene where they're leaving, and you see that Kate is wearing a blue suit, and Beth is wearing a dress with a pink jumper with pearls, and she wears something very similar when she's Alice. And I thought that was a very nice little touch, knowing that she had an affinity for that kind of style and colors in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know. Would you agree that she kind of she does a better job, I think, of hoisting the show on her shoulders than Ruby Rose does?
I think I'd much rather watch her than Harley Quinn any day of the week.
Fair enough. We talked about Megan.
Alice,
Go ahead.
Sorry, Alice is actually a very engaging villain, and I really wish that she would become more popular. Everyone goes nuts over Harley Quinn, and we have her in the Birds of Prey movie, which, plug, go listen to us break.
Hang on. There's nothing sexual about Alice. And Alice is, and I'm being very straightforward when I say that. When you read the LG comic, you don't get any sexual anything from that character. Harley Quinn in the comics, not in the animated show from which she sprang from, has been utterly sexualized.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other sexualized character in the DC universe that is more sexualized than Harley Quinn is Power Girl.
Or Poison Ivy.
I wouldn't even say Poison Ivy. And not as much as those two.
You have not seen the cosplays I have.
Okay, fair enough. In the comics, I have not seen a lot of sexualization necessarily of Poison Ivy. It's there, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying if I had to rank over-sexualized almost perverted characters in the female characters in the DC universe. Harley Quinn's number 1, then Power Girl, then Poison Ivy, and Alice is like 177. You know.
Okay, that's actually a good point, because you're right. That does lead to a character's popularity, and I'm not going to say that's a good thing, but there's no mistaking that it's accurate.
Yeah. So, just so we can move on to other characters, did you have anything else to say about Megan Tandy as Sophie Moore? I personally, this is not a character I particularly wanted to root for, and when she was having difficulties in the show, I was kind of like, you're kind of not a great character, so I don't care as much. I know a lot of her stuff with Ruby Rose tended to lose me, so, her stuff was not a huge part of the not in a hugely engaging part of the show for me.
I understand that. Again, I feel that they really upped her character to have someone in the LGBTQ community. Well, ran my words together there. Who unfortunately was unable to really embrace who she was. And like I said, there is so many that have to go through exactly what Sophie is going through in the series, and it is really tragic, unfortunately. And I feel that the showrunners wanted someone identifiable in that context.
So Nicole Kang, who does not have a Wikipedia link, plays Mary Hamilton, who they wrote in the show as Kate's stepsister. Kate has a stepmom and stepsister from after the accident that kills the biological mother of Kate and Beth, and at least believed to have killed Beth. Mm-hmm. And so they developed this character, Mary Hamilton, who is kind of the night nurse of the show. She's running an underground clinic, and Batwoman runs in there and gets fixed up a lot. Half the season, she doesn't know who Batwoman is, and then towards the end, she's brought into the inner circle.
She does figure out who Batwoman is on her own. She was a very interesting character, because I remember trying to explain it to Andre, because he sees her being just this. I think the first time he saw her, she was showing off clothes for them to wear when they went to that one dude's nightclub. And now she's talking about how it's like latest off the runways, and all these, Instagram influencers were dying for the designs. And I'm like, yeah, she's actually this brilliant medical student. And he just kind of looks at me and I'm like, I know, just go with it. Because it's so weird that she jumps. But I mean, she is obviously a brilliant medical student. We get that great scene of her helping the one staff member who was in the elevator that fell, and pointing out the things that the medics missed. But then you got a scene at the end when she actually goes to the Batcave, and her first instinct is to take a selfie down there.
That had to have spoken to what they potentially wanted as a younger crowd to key into this show. I mean, you could absolutely, like I said, I showed it to my 9-year-old. You could absolutely, and she was actually 8 when I was showing it to her. You could actually sell this to a younger crowd, and I think that was the hope. I don't know how well this skewed demographically. I can tell you that, looking at the Wikipedia page, from episode 1 to episode 20, mouse, total views. I mean, people gave it a chance. It started out at 2.85 for the pilot, and it ended with 1.17, and that was not its lowest rated show. Obviously, Crisis on Infinite Earths was the second highest rated show in total viewers. The lowest one looks like it was the third to last. It was the May 3rd episode at a 1.12. Says if you believe in me, I'll believe in you. So they do break this down somewhat. For 18 to 49, this thing got it starts with a 0.5 over 2, and it ends with a 0.2. So it definitely lost people over the course of the season. And some of that might have been to the pandemic, and some of it, I'm sure, just people just got irritated with it. I would love to see a further breakdown to see, because this is 18 to 49, and I wish they would have broken it down to like 18 to say 25. See if anyone in that group was sticking with it or not, or did it lose the younger crowd? Did it lose the older crowd? Did it kind of skew across the board of people that it lost? So who knows?
I'll give you that. I mean, this show did try to use a lot more stuff that appealed to a younger demographic. Hell, there is an episode where they bring in Duella Dent, who, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say, has quickly become the she is whatever we need her to be character of the DC universe. Because I have lost track of having people saying which side she's on, which character she's related to, and whatever. And she targets Instagram influencers. And I mentioned on this show many a times that Instagram influencers are probably one of the most annoying things I believe on this planet at the moment. I'm sorry, I have no tolerance for. It's like, I'm an influencer. I'm like, no, you're an annoying bitch. Shut up.
I think one of my kids said something about wanting to be an influencer. I'm like, no, you're going to have to get a real job.
Yeah, sorry. No. But. And yeah, it's just there's just all this talk about. I mean, there's a scene where she saves one of the influencers from dropping in a vat of acid, and the first words out of her are not "thank you" or "you saved my life." It's, "Oh, tell me someone got that on camera," and I'm just like, "Go put her back in the acid. We'll all be better off."
So that being said, the character's fine. There were other characters who I talked about who I did not love. She started off kind of annoying, but towards the second half of the season, after a lot of tragedy and letdown and frustrations with Ruby Rose's character, she becomes a bit more earnest. The problem is they went past earnest into the two dogs from the Looney Tunes cartoon. You know, the one little puppy who's running around going, "You want me to pick up some bones for you? Huh? You want me to pick up some bones for you?" Because that's what she ended up like.
Spike and Chester,
yeah. She just became too much like Chester, being the smaller one.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Just too eager. Like, that's the problem. I think Arrow gave some broad performances, but I thought they were usually tightly reeled in to where it was dramatic, and it was definitely soap opera-ish, but I never felt it was so broad as to be the stupidest thing I've seen on television. A lot of the performances start to go that way. Like, the directors lost control of the actors in a lot of this, to where the performances got way too broad and way too stupid at different times, and it just kind of drove me crazy. So I think there's potential for a character there. If they don't bring her back, though, I will not be upset.
There's a lot of speculation on which characters will be cut when they do recast the lead and what direction they go in, and that's why it's kind of hard to sit and talk about what we thought of the season and what we want to see come in the future, because we have no clue whatsoever what they're going to do and how they're going to change this.
Yeah, like I said, I'm okay with just finishing up the season and recasting almost all the characters. Keep Christina Wolf as Julia Pennyworth, and I actually thought she was a really fun character in this, and I thought Christina Wolf did a good job. And just give me a non-white gay lead as the next Batwoman, and pair her up with the blonde white gal who sits behind the computer on a ship somewhere, and we'll be fine. Anyway, Luke Fox, played by Cameron Johnson, he's there, he's fine, he's doing his thing, he's acting more or less appropriately. The problem is, late in the season they gave him more stuff to do. They actually let him out of the cave, but for a while there, he's just there to give dialogue and guide Ruby Rose around, and then and he's just sort of quippy, but he's not the kind of quippy with a lot of charisma. So it was one of those where if they lost him, I would not be upset either.
Yeah, he's just supposed to be the tech guy, and he was very resourceful. He was not charming, but he wasn't annoying.
Yeah,
he was just there. You know, I've seen so many shows where it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be the quirky sidekick, and we all just want to be like, you look at the main character and go, you could do so much better. This guy, he didn't annoy me. Not to mention, I like the storyline that goes with he's the son of Lucius Fox. We find out that Lucius Fox was killed in what was supposed to be like a robbery gone wrong, and we start to learn more that there was a larger conspiracy with it, because of course there was. But you see a lot of him with the idea that he's really upset because the guy who he thought was the killer is going to get a new trial, and he's going to get released from jail. And there's a lot with that character, and I thought they did a really good job working with that concept.
And finally, we have Doug Ray Scott, as mentioned before, as Jacob Kane. So a lot of this season is spent, like I said, with him trying to keep Gotham under the thumb of the Crows. He doesn't like Batwoman because she's a threat to his paid organization. I mean, why do you need a private security force when this one broad can run around town and stop all the crime for you? So, and then God forbid Gotham have a functional police force. I just, again, the writing on this show is so broad that they made, and I know the problem is that, like, they made him kind of a villain, but then they kept putting him in peril at times. Like, I can't remember the name of the character, but the police detective who becomes the chief of police, who eventually joins Oliver's team, they actually made him likable. And they gave him a struggle, and, so when he's struggling with, like, alcoholism and the death of his daughter and yada, 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 you actually root for this character, and you don't want to see him have any more problems or pain on the show. They did a piss poor job of that with Jacob. Like, this is a character who, like, you just want to see him get defeated and written off the show already. Like, he's not a likable character. And you can make a likable character be adversarial. Again, Alice being a great example of this. To where you kind of want to see what happens with them. You want to see what they do. Maybe in some cases, depending on how you write them, you want to see them succeed. It gets frustrating to see them get beaten. And him, like, I just wanted to see him get beaten. But he has, like, go-away heat with me. It's not I want to see him get beaten, because I want to see the good guy win. It's I just want him to go off my television. I actually thought the whole thing with the Crows was not handled well.
I just kept looking at him thinking, Jesus, Prince Charming Forever After did not age well. Sorry, he plays the handsome prince in in my all-time favorite Cinderella adaptation. All right. And he looks crap. It did not age well. I'm sorry. And like I said, I still look at him going, wow, you were going to be Wolverine. We dodged a bullet.
So one of the narrative devices they use is we have a disembodied voice who gives us some degree of narration throughout the show. We have Rachel Maddow as Vesper Fairchild, and you never see her; you only hear her. And I thought sometimes she had some pretty witty things to say, and I thought she was sort of a fun radio personality voice. She said things, to kind of get the conversation going, and I was into it. Other times, I just thought they made her too annoying. Like, I don't know if that was done purposefully or not, but like there'd be times where she'd be like, "What?" I don't know if you ever watched BoJack Horseman, but there's a character who has like a demonic device for speaking style, and Robert and I talked about it at length, and she'll just sort of say things in a certain way that it worked on BoJack Horseman. Rachel Maddow would do something similar to that, where she would say things in this really alliterative speaking style, And then, like, what do you think, Gotham? And I'd just be like, ugh, you make my head hurt, lady. And that is nothing against Rachel Maddow. This is not about her politics. This is not even about her personality. I think as an actress, she did the job that she was given. I just don't always think they gave her the best material to recite.
Yeah, it was a little annoying just having her voice a character that just appeared to give a little off-screen commentary here or there. It may sound weird, but I think actually it would have been better if this was an on-screen character who we occasionally saw in the recording studio, or maybe interacting with some of the other characters once or twice.
Maybe be like Kat, whatever the hell her name is from Supergirl.
Yeah, I mean, Vesper Fairchild is a character from the books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she has appeared in the comics. So it was, I guess I just kind of looked at them like, you could have actually gone and had a deeper relationship with this, but because somebody really wanted to cast Rachel Maddow, you made her entirely off screen. And frankly, I think that works to the disadvantage.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the actor who plays him, but the only other character I thought we should talk about is Mouse. They spend so much of the time with him as Alice's sidekick, and then towards the end of the season, you know, when he's in Arkham, he's like, let's just stop. Let's just live in Arkham. It's fine. And of course, Alice is obsessed, and you know, she ends up killing him in the end. I thought the guy who played Mouse was good. I thought as a character, he was interesting.
When you really look with him and what he and Alice went through, their character arc is actually very fascinating. And frankly, I could have watched an entire series of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just what they went through with Mouse's psychotic father, who is something out of a horror movie or Full Metal Alchemist. I mean, Jesus. He is terrifying. And then you get that, frankly, really scary episode with the fear toxin, and you learn about his mother, Mouse's grandmother, who further abused Beth. And it's fascinating because they went through living hell there, but Mouse is still able to hold on to most of his sanity. He has no problem killing. He has no problem doing whatever Alice tells him to do. But when you talk to him, he is not gone off the deep end crazy. He still seems very sane and is basically just saying, I'm doing this not because I want to, but because it's going to get us to the end game that we want. You know, for them to leave Gotham and be happy and start over their new lives together. He just wants to be with Alice, and he wants to be comfortable. That's all he wants. He doesn't want to take over Gotham. He doesn't care about killing Batwoman unless she stands in his way. It's very fascinating, and I would have loved to have learned more about them. I mean, this may sound a little more depraved, but I would have loved to have seen more of what they went through being trapped in that house.
So overall, I would say of the current crop of CW shows, and I'll include Arrow in that because it just ended this season. So Arrow, Flash, Legends, Black Lightning, Supergirl, and now Batwoman. For me, with Legends at the top, Supergirl, Flash being close to that, Arrow and Black Lightning being the middle, this is probably the worst of all the shows. It's not all bad all the time. It's a mixed bag, and that's kind of my opinion on the whole thing here, is that there's some good here. There's potential to be better, but I feel like they stumbled out of the gate on this one. There was a lot of missed opportunities, and I'm hoping for a soft reboot in season 2. What's your take on this?
Like I mentioned before, I am behind on most of the CW shows. I have not watched Flash or Arrow or Legends of Tomorrow. I'm working on getting there. It had potential, it had promise, but it's clear that about midway through the show, they started to lose track of what they really wanted. I mentioned this before we started recording, but whatever writer it was who decided that kryptonite could suddenly cut through Batwoman's suit needs to just be smacked upside the head. Because that is the dumbest plot point I have ever heard.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
It makes no sense whatsoever why all of a sudden kryptonite is the only thing now that can kill Batwoman in addition to Supergirl. I'm like, oh my God, why are you doing this?
Because they're doing it because next season this is supposed to cross over with Supergirl and Lois. That's why.
I can't keep track of all these crossovers. This is more complicated than the House of M.
That's on my list for next year when WandaVision wraps. So
you're going to need to bring Al in on this one. He's probably the only one who's going to know what the hell's going on.
Oh, this is exciting. All right.
No, I did enjoy parts of it. Again, really good fight choreography. Most of the characters I thought were pretty interesting. I want Batwoman's boots.
So let me ask you a question. Last question of the night, and then we're going to do plugs and get out of here. Batwoman Season 2. Do we give this another chance? Do we give this another Radulich and Broadcasting Network TV party review? Or do we go, it's out there, it exists, but once was enough with this show. We don't need to review any more of it.
Two conditions. One, no judgment on that until we know what direction they are going. I agree with you that the idea of skipping from Elegy to the Many Arms of Death would actually be a smart move. But until we know what they're planning to do and how they're planning to do it, I am withholding all judgment. Secondly, I'm also withholding judgment until they actually put this show on a network or on a streaming service that I can find. Because I had to buy the first season on Amazon.
We need to talk. You and I need to talk offline about how you can get some of this stuff. Because I don't know why you had to do that. That's right. You don't have cable, do you?
Nope. My husband and I have a desktop computer hooked up to our big screen TV. We have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus,
and the regular
Prime.
CW app doesn't work?
I tried it, but it would only show me the pilot. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I could only get to the pilot through it.
It should be on Netflix now.
It's not.
Are you shitting me? It's not?
Nope, they said they're not putting it on Netflix. And I do not have the DC streaming service at the moment.
This is the headache I have with Star Trek. That's a whole other podcast. And you know who does a better job of that? The Midnight Edge people who can explain why all the Star Trek isn't centrally located in one streaming app, including the one you pay for, which is CBS All Access. All right.
I'm waiting for us to do a Screaming Boy podcast complaining about all the different streaming services and how this is actually causing more problems than it's solving.
You ain't kidding, sister. All right. With that said, tomorrow we'll be doing a review of Mushroomhead: A Wonderful Life. And just added to the schedule, this Friday, because people can't just do shows for me. I gotta negotiate with them and shit. I gotta do their things, so they'll do my things, and there's a lot of things that need being done. So against my will, because I do not want to do this, but I'm doing it for Jason Teasley anyway. We'll be doing a TV party, Jason Teasley and I, for the show, for a TV movie he requested, Velocipaster.
Hey, you agreed.
I know.
You could have told Jason, sorry, but no.
No, it's the only way to get people to do things like Warrior Nun. Dear Netflix, please stop adapting comics. I can't get people to watch all these damn shows. Warrior Nun, based on a comic book. All right. In the meantime, you can check out our review.
I'm just grateful you're not forcing me to watch that on Comic Strip. I'm still recovering from the last days of American Crime.
Yeah, you and Robert both needed a break, so I didn't even ask. But you can hear me and Alexis talk about The Many Arms of Death on Source Material Live. That's in the archives now. Last week we did Supergirl being Supergirl Season 5, but we also touched on the first 4 seasons. Lamb of God, and Sean and I did a really fun on trial for Supergirl from 1984. So that was pretty cool. Next week is Alexis has had a great run here of Source Material Lives. Next week is her last one for a while. We'll be doing Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy from the Year of Our Lord 2019, and we'll be doing issues 1 through 6. And then David Wright will be on the show. We'll be looking at the most wonderfully written, masterful, fantastic Harley Quinn Season 2. And then Alexis Hejna is back. We will be doing Looney Tunes from HBO Max, which also doesn't have Batgirl. Is that what you're trying to tell me? There's no Batgirl on HBO Max?
I actually haven't started my trial, my 1 month trial, 1 week, 1 month. I don't know. I haven't started my free trial yet, so I didn't see if it was on there or not.
See, I would experiment. And then I wrote, and then before I head off on my vacation for a few days at a nice resort in Orlando, even with the COVID, we're still going. Doesn't matter. Myself and Chris Bailey will be reviewing the 2-night broadcast of AEW Fyter Fest, which will have been recorded on July 1st and then July 8th, and we'll be reviewing it on July 9th. So go ahead and check that out. All right, where can they... Your plugs, madam.
All right. We talked about this when we talked about Batwoman the Many on the Death. You okay?
Nope, I'm dying, but go ahead.
Oh, well, okay, if it's just that. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. All of our items are currently available on our shops. That's Etsy and handmade at Amazon. We really don't know about appearances. We have a convention that's supposed to take place not this weekend, but next in Cape Girardeau. That's Cape Comic-Con. This has been on the books for a while now. However, we just got word about our neighboring state of Kansas issuing another shutdown. There is talk that Missouri is going to be next on the chopping block, and there is a little fear right now. We don't know if this convention is going to go off or not. I'm really hoping it is, because I need an excuse to get the hell out of my house. I have been in this house since like November of last year, and I'm kind of getting sick of it. So stay tuned to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter feed. We will be updating our next appearances and what's going to happen with the convention circuit. And, of course, we will be sharing all of our new items going online. So stay tuned. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Indeed. All right, still alive. Woo! All right, so that does it for me and Alexis. We'll see you again soon. Be well, be safe, and behave.